take a seat at the table, gather round. I'm your co-host, Brody Strickland, joined by my other co-host, Skylar Greenhall, and this is the Lunch Table Pod, where today we will be talking fantasy sports depression, top 10 fantasy point guards, and then a little around the table where we're going to discuss some topics from the previous week, sports, life, pop culture. You have it all. Welcome to the Lunch Table.
Damn right.
Dude, very excited to get this started. So everybody who doesn't know us, I'm Brody. This is Skylar. We've been just buds forever. I mean, met each other in middle school, grew up down the road from each other, and just immediately, it's been a lifelong bond over sports. Becoming stuntmen has always been. We'll talk stuntmen stuff later for sure.
Definitely.
And just general jackassery. And, the idea of the pod really, he came to me, he sent me a text and was like, dude, do you have any interest, kind of just sitting down, talking, shooting the shit. And it immediately kind of reminded me, dude, when we used to sit around the lunch table, middle school and high school, and we would just talk, what happened that week, what day in sports, it would just, who is this MVP, and just talking, just shooting the shit. And so we're kind of going to try and gather that feeling a little bit, allow us to kind of get comfortable to everybody. It's our first try at this. We're not going to be pros, but I think it will somewhat entertain you as long as you're here for the ride. I'll start with an introduction real quick, and then I'm going to hand it off to Skylar, who is actually the brainchild of the operation. So I'm Brody. Me and Skylar are both 24 years old. We graduated high school in 2017, played just about every sport you can imagine. Mostly we're massive football guys in terms of playing a sport, but fans of basketball, football, baseball. And then after high school, we actually both had the opportunity to play college sports. I went and played football at Reinhardt for a very short period of time before my shoulder decided to disintegrate. And I, I'll call it quits, moved on to, just going to school regularly. And ever since there, it was like, I need to do a little something sports related, like going and playing golf or whatever is fun, but I need to sit down and I need to talk about sports. And so when Skylar hit me up about this, I was very, very excited to take the opportunity. And now, Skylar, I'm handing this off to you.
All right. Yeah. I couldn't have said any of that better myself. Like Brody said, I'm Skylar. I'm the other co-host here on the podcast. Like you said, we grew up together playing sports, talking sports. And so this is something I've been wanting to do for a really long time. And I'm glad that we're finally making it happen. Like Brody mentioned, I did also play a year of college football, played at Berry College, got me a conference championship ring. So that was pretty cool. How much I contributed to that, we're not going to talk too much about, but that's okay. That's okay. I was a part of it. But yeah, body broke down on me pretty much too. That's pretty much the reason I stopped playing. Went on, finished school, and now I'm teaching children. So,
Yeah, and let it be known, Georgia State Board of Educators, whoever allowed Skylar to teach children made just a drastic mistake because we were awful students, terrible. Like the grades were great, we were terrible to be around. So somebody had some very poor judgment letting him in the classroom.
I know that's right.
So Skylar, let's the introductions, let's keep those short and sweet. People are going to get to learn about us as we talk, and if you already know us, you know who we are, and you either hate us or you love us. And that'll be evidenced as the show develops. But our first thing we really wanted to talk about, and just because you're looking at two fiends for fantasy sports here, it's late summer, Skylar. It's getting hotter, and the fantasy dog days are here. Ooh. There is no action, man. I get up, I check my rosters, I scroll the free agents, I make these trades possibilities up, I write them down, and there's just nothing to do, man. There's no activity, and it's just like, how are you spending your time? Because I know everybody who doesn't know, this is the commissioner right here. You need something commissioned. This is your guy. He's going to run a league. And so I know he is fiending right now. So how are you passing the time to prep for fantasy season?
Oh man, it's hard, man. It's hard to get through that drought, like you said. I mean, it's like there's some kind of empty void. We're not fantasy baseball guys, at least not at the moment. Maybe in the future, but
it's probably coming soon. But that's another time.
We'll see. Further discussions down the road.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's tough having that drought, but some of the things I like to do to get through it is stare at the nothing that happens in our fantasy league. Just spend some time
Crickets.
hoping and dreaming,
Yeah, just
wishing,
crickets in the group chat. We'll
wishing
send.
for something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have a guy. It's always the one guy that'll send like a TikTok of something sports
Oh
related,
yeah.
just hoping to fire up the fantasy chat again. Just because that's what you live for, really. That's what fantasy's about, is that group chat, man. Like, let's
That's
just call it what
exactly
it
it.
is. Like, winning a championship is great, but like roasting somebody in the chat and getting everybody to laugh with you in the chat, I mean, that's what it's about.
That's pretty
And
much
we
it.
don't have that. We just do not have that right now. You could send
Mhm.
off shots in the group chat right now, trashing everybody's team, and you would get no feedback because
Oh
nobody cares except for the diehards. Because I know if you're like me, you've looked at your roster every day, and I'm talking every league here, guys. We're talking for us personally, basketball and football mainly.
yeah. Yep.
And I mean, I'm checking rosters, I'm checking training camp updates. Like for me and Skylar as well, we're big sleeper guys. And I don't mean the app, I mean performers. We
That's
like to be the
exactly it.
guys that get one over. We want to grab them off the waivers, stash them, piss you off because we won't play them for 2 years, and then we'll
Nope.
drop the bomb on you. And
That's
that's what I've
exactly
been
it.
spending this summer doing. And I found nothing. Nothing. My teams have not improved one bit. This has been the slowest fantasy offseason ever. The NBA news, every time something comes out, it does nothing for me. It
Nothing.
affects nobody on my teams. And if anything, like my Devin Booker stock this offseason is just plummeting,
Oh yeah.
plummeting, and plummeting. KD's just going to run that team for one more season and then probably retire off into the sunset. They signed Bol and DeAndre Ayton to me just are this congestion of bodies down low.
Oh yeah.
And Debo, we know, as a shooter, he likes to finish too. How's
Mhm.
he going to finish, Skylar? He can't finish.
Not gonna have any room.
He's around the rim with Bol and DeAndre Ayton clogging it up. And it's just
Uh,
like, my thing is this: I need the regular season to get here.
yep. Yep. I miss
Simple
it.
as that.
I miss it, man. I miss it so much. Off season, like you said, for fantasy basketball, it's especially tough. Because you got all these things that are happening in the summer, and
And
just
especially
nothing affects your team.
one of those early draft picks. Like for us guys, we're keeper leagues. We run dynasties. Like you better be a
Dynasties.
GM and be proud of it. And unless you're one of those guys that struggled last year or made a trade for an early draft pick to get one of those big rookies like a Victor or a Scoot, you don't really care about the summer league. Like I'm not going to
No,
watch Kobe Buffkin develop for the Hawks. Like I don't care. I
no.
mean,
On my fantasy roster, by the way, Kobe Buffkin. Just throwing
dude,
that out there.
I mean,
Throwing that
just
out there.
everybody out there believe in the Hawks, believe in the young talent. Anybody could be the guy, to be honest. Anybody
Yeah.
could be the guy. We only have
Yeah.
one guy on the team that's him. So,
All
and
right.
actually, that's honestly a great way for us to segue to our next segment. And I'll let Skylar tell y'all what we're about to talk about next.
I agree. All right. So we are going to transition into our top 10 dynasty fantasy point guards. So this is going to include no rookies and nobody under the age of 27. Since it is a dynasty ranking, we kind of wanted to leave those superstars, the Damian Lillards, the Steph Currys of the world, kind of leave those guys off because they're on every ranking. And so this will be 27 and under. And as I said, no rookies. So I
Yeah,
think
we
we'll
want
just
to give you guys, like you got to build your team around this guy. This guy's going to be a weekly performer. He's either scoring, he's making plays on the floor. Like this guy, if you're in a win now situation, he could be the missing piece, but this is really your foundation.
right.
And we're going to start, we're going to talk about these guys, and we'll give you a little insight to why we like them so much because there's a ton of young point guard talent right now.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So let's get started. And number 10, we're going to work our way to the top here. This is probably a little controversial just due to some recent news surrounding him and his level of talent. But I actually have Ja at 10.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people have him ranked higher simply because he is so talented. But I have no idea how much this guy's going to play over the next 5 years.
No
We're
clue.
already looking at a 25-game suspension for next year. And a seemingly unwillingness to change. So it's hard for me to put him any higher than 10 just because I wouldn't want to trade the house for him and gamble on him being able to play.
Yeah.
So
Interestingly enough, I'm gonna go even more controversial than you on that. I actually had Ja Morant as an honorable mention due to all of this insane stuff that's gone on around him. Thought about
It's
just
early.
omitting him from the list entirely,
Yeah.
but I just decided to keep him as an honorable mention.
You can't deny the
And
talent. You really can't, but the kid's an idiot.
yeah, I mean, he's making terrible decisions. He doesn't know how to handle himself professionally, obviously, and it's sad to see because I hope it changes. He's a great talent. I was a big fan of his before all this stuff went down, but it is what it is, you know. And I don't think you can trust him, which is why I think we both have him so low on our lists.
And that's especially important, guys, because you gotta remember we're talking dynasty leagues here. Like you can't hemorrhage your future on a guy that already for next season. I mean, missing 25 games is I mean, that's 4 to 5 weeks. It's 6 weeks of fantasy time.
Yeah.
And those 6 weeks could be the difference in missing or making the playoffs. So it's really hard to you just can't put everything on a guy like that. So you said that was your honorable mention, actually. So I'd like to hear who you actually have at 10.
All right. So really quick before I throw in my number 10, my other honorable mentions were Jalen Williams, Jamal Murray, Jaden Ivey. If you even count Jaden Ivey as a point guard, kind of more of a
Yeah,
shooting guard. But
very hybrid role, but I see exactly where you're coming from. I
yeah,
struggled with whether or not to include him for that exact reason.
yeah. But speaking of Pistons guards, my number 10 is actually Cade Cunningham.
Great
Uh,
pick.
he came in as a top 50 player when he was healthy in our league last year. And honestly, if he was healthy all year and didn't have a little bit of injury concern his rookie year too, he would probably be a little higher on my list because I'm a big believer
I think
in
people have
Cade.
already forgotten about Cade to a
Yeah,
degree.
I
So
agree.
I'm excited to see how he returns, and I don't even have him on the team. So
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm excited to see what he does this year and going forward into the future. So let's move on. What's your number 9? Who you got?
So at 9 actually was one of your honorable mentions, and I struggled with this simply because I know the guy he probably gets made to look better because of his teammate. His teammate being one of the best basketball players to ever do it recently, being the Joker, and he's a little on the older side for truly to build a team around. But he's got a lot of great years of basketball left, in my opinion. That's Jamal Murray. I think Jamal Murray, now that he is healthy, is going to be a staple point guard for at least 5 to 6 more seasons. This guy, he can either score electrically for a half or he can assist his teammates in any possible way. And he so benefits from the added pressure of Joker being on the floor for the defense. It really frees this guy up, and they're gonna be paired up for a long time. So I see no reason not to value Jamal Murray, at least for the fact if you could somehow swindle your league for the Jamal Joker stack, you could win a lot of games like that. So that's actually my number 9.
All right, I like that. I like that. Jamal Murray, I mean, he was right there with my honorable mentions for a reason. He actually, funny enough, he made the list for me originally, but I took him off to replace him with somebody else I had forgotten
Interesting. I'm
who
very interested to hear who this is.
we'll get to him in a minute, the guy that I forgot. But my number 9 is not the guy that I forgot, but my number 9 is actually Jalen Brunson. I think
Great selection.
Brunson, he had a breakout season this year. He led the Knicks in the regular season and into the playoffs. He played great, so I see no reason
Right.
why he can't continue to be a very productive fantasy player. And he's only 26 years old, which is odd because I think he came in as a 4-year player out of Villanova.
Yeah. So
Um,
he's still young on league time, but he's
e-
almost he could be a veteran age wise in terms of playing.
exactly.
So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and also defensively, he's a good team defender, and so he's going to rack up some of those, steals, maybe a backside block on somebody who doesn't have very long of a reach or is, happens to be smaller than him.
Right.
But he's a good team defender, not great individually, but he can sometimes get some extra stats from that too.
And I will say I was going to mention Jalen Brunson on the list, everybody, before you invalidate me for not having him on there. He made the honorable mentions, but as somebody that is true to the Hawks, I will never ever give a Nick their credit. He's a great basketball player. I couldn't have him on my fantasy team. I couldn't. But I will say, everybody, for your non-Atlanta folks, Jalen Brunson is absolutely a top 10 point guard to build around right now, and it's not even close.
That's
So we'll
completely
segue right
understandable.
into number 8. And I'm going to kind of blow through my number 8 just because he's already been talked about. But I actually had Cade Cunningham at 8 because I value his ability on the floor. And I think he's really going to turn into a true like floor general on top of his scoring ability that he's already shown. So I'm excited to see him, and like we talked about, for every reason that you already mentioned. So I'll go ahead and let you move on to number 8, just to not wear that point down.
Yeah, no, I love Cade at 8. Injury concerns, like I said, only reason I didn't have him that high.
He's so young that you can almost make the, like he's going to recover like a young kid will recover. So it's hopefully
Yeah,
just one freak injury and nothing to repeat. But at the same time, it was a high trauma injury, so it could very well happen again.
yeah, yeah. All right. My number 8 is actually the guy that I forgot off the list somehow, even though he's on my fantasy team. And that would be one DeJounte Murray. I have
Great selection.
DeJounte Murray at
Great
number
selection.
8. He's super talented, man. I mean, he's a top 5 point guard without Trae Young. And just having Trae in the backcourt with him is great for the Hawks, but not so great for my fantasy team.
I will
And
say, don't let Quinn Snyder develop the new offense. I think what last
yeah,
year you saw two guys really trying to develop an identity together under poor coaching. So I think as they continue to practice together, play together, like these guys are going to find where they excel because where DeJounte really excels over Trey is that mid-range jumper.
yeah,
And that's a lethal weapon in today's game with the spacing that started to be created. You can exploit that mid-range, and DeJounte is very good at that. So I love that pick.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're going to get a lot of defensive value out of DeJounte as well. He had a down year defensively last year, but he could very well be back up there, especially as a top 5 defensive guard. It'll
Yeah.
happen just like that.
Joker's wingspan has got to be like 12 feet long. He's got like
Oh,
the
it's
longest
absurd.
arms I've ever
His
seen.
fingers drag the floor when he walks around. Unreal wingspan.
Yeah. Underrated court vision too. Guy can
Yeah,
sling it. He can
he
sling
gets
it.
well. His teammate tends to the court vision tends to overrun his a little bit, but we can discuss that later.
Exactly. Yes.
So
Yes, we
number
can.
7, we're up to number
Yeah.
7 now, and I have a pick. I think you're gonna like here. I think you're gonna really like him, and maybe probably have him valued higher.
Okay.
Darius Garland.
All right.
I love Darius Garland. I think this guy has a game that is going to just age as he ages, which he's not the youngest of guys, and that's okay. Like I get that, and like I get that's the point of this. But sometimes you don't want to gamble on a 22-year-old, and you're looking for that centerpiece that's been in the league for a couple years, and you know he's got some prime left. And I think Darius Garland is one of those guys. This is somebody you can get right now in your fantasy leagues without trading your whole team for, and you can still depend on him week in and week out. And he could, any given week, drop a bomb.
Yeah.
He absolutely could. Now, is it tough for him fantasy wise having Spider on the same team? Absolutely. Absolutely. But as Darius continues to learn to be a playmaker, especially with the weapons he has around him, just watch the assist numbers go up and up and up.
Yeah. Totally in 100% agreement with you here because my number 7 is also Darius Garland.
Wow. Let's clap it up for that. Let's just clap it up for Darius Garland.
Insane.
7, man. It was just meant to be. It was just meant to be. Any other points you'd like to make about him?
Yeah, I absolutely love Darius Garland. He's one of my favorite young players in the league for a lot of reasons. Having him on my fantasy team, part of 2 seasons ago, and then all of last season, I've watched a lot of Darius Garland over the last couple of years, and I just think that he's a player, if that makes sense. He's a baller, and that guy he might go a game where he drops 25 and 15 out of nowhere. And then the next game, he might back off a little bit and he might go, I don't know, 14 and 7, which can be what they need to win. But at the same time, I would just like to see him be more aggressive. I think that's what it's really all about with DG is he lacks some of that aggression, especially playing with Spido, like you said, playing with Donovan Mitchell. He kind of backed off a bit last year, I thought. And I think if he puts his foot on the gas pedal, there's no reason he can't finish even higher than a top 7 point guard, especially for Dynasty.
Absolutely, very easy to think that, especially if he can, like you said, learn to not defer as much and really learn to use the pressure that Spider creates.
Yeah.
We could be looking at a very, very dangerous duo, in my opinion. So we're going to move on to number 6, and I'll let you start off with your number 6.
All right. So my number six is a guy who, just like Jalen Brunson, who I mentioned earlier, had a breakout season last year. Personally, I've been watching this guy since he was at Kentucky, and so I knew it was coming. I knew he was that guy. But I've got the Sacramento Kings' own De'Aaron Fox as my number six point guard. He finished top 36 last year in our fantasy league. And he's a decent defender. He's small, but he can do, he can do more than most people his size can do. I've been watching a lot of podcasts and stuff recently about the NBA, and I've seen multiple guys mention that De'Aaron Fox is one of the strongest players, like for
I've
his
heard that
size.
on so
And
many guys' podcasts and interviews. They talk about how much they hate playing against him because when you
yeah,
guard him, it's like a little Mack truck blowing you up. That's I've
yeah,
heard it all over the league.
yeah,
I love
exactly.
that pick actually because I also have De'Aaron Fox ranked very highly.
Yeah,
Not I actually have him ranked one higher, and I'll go ahead. I'm going to bang out my next two. Just when we're already talking about De'Aaron, so I
yeah.
actually have Tyrese Halliburton
Okay.
ranked at six, which I think he is one of the best playmakers I've ever seen.
Yeah,
This dude just has an innate ability to find an open man, and the guys he hits have an innate ability to hit the shots, and that's a special thing. Like he may not be the most talented or the most flashy, but this dude is going to score points and he's going to get assists. Like he's
yeah.
going to get assists. You're not going to have
Oh
to
yeah.
worry about that. Like I think him and Trae Young will take turns leading the league in assist average for years to come, in my opinion. I just don't see who compares to those two.
Could
So I
easily see
really
it.
like Tyrese right there, just for some consistency in your lineup, man. Because in my opinion, somebody that can get 15 points but 12 assists every night, that's a special combination, and that's something you're not ever going to be pissed about.
No, no.
So, and then after Tyrese, I had De'Aaron Fox at five.
Okay.
So I think De'Aaron Fox, he is one of my favorite players to watch. He takes over a fourth quarter. One of the clutchest players I've witnessed. I've been following basketball, I would say 7 years now, and really
Yeah.
heavily. I'm not going to pretend to be somebody that knows everything about it for the past 20 years.
No.
But this past 7 years, De'Aaron Fox has been I think, the clutchest player at his level with his much experience. Other guys, you got your Stephs, all that, but they've been doing it.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox is a kid. He's our age.
Hmm.
He's ice cold. So that's what I love De'Aaron Fox, dude.
Yep, I got it right there in my notes too. King of the fourth quarter. That was
Absolutely.
the last thing I wrote
Absolutely.
in there.
Watching those Kings games to end the regular season and into this last year's playoffs were electric, dude.
Yeah,
As soon as the Hawks were out, I really didn't care because I had the Kings to watch.
yeah,
I adopted them as my Western team. Like, light the beam. Light the
love it,
beam.
love it. Yep, I love me some De'Aaron Fox. Sad I traded him in our fantasy league.
Yeah. Let it be known, everybody. Me and Skylar get a little trade
A little
we
bit.
don't like for the league to get quiet, and we get a little trade happy, and we have both made so many regrettable decisions. But
Oh
you
yeah,
can also guarantee that just about every future star in the league has been on our rosters at one point.
oh yeah, pretty
So that's just
much,
how it goes. It's just how
pretty
it goes.
much.
So,
All
okay,
right,
I think you need to list your number four, correct?
is it 4 or 5?
So I did 5 and 4 right there just because they tied in together.
Wait, I thought
So
you did. You didn't do 6 and 5.
let me count real quick. Yeah, I did. I did 5 and 6.
Okay, so yeah, my number 5 is, and this is controversy part 2 right here. I've got LaMelo Ball down at number 5. Um, Lower than most people probably would have him, but I've got good reasoning for it. Obviously, when he's healthy, I mean, he's undeniable. He finished, I think, number 13 overall in our league last year when he was healthy.
Yeah,
Um,
just
he does everything offensively, which is all you need for fantasy. He's bigger, he can pull rebounds. He's got great court vision. He's so good in the fast break, which is super impressive to watch when he's on the court. But the injury concerns are big there, and given, I hate to say it, but given his brother's recent history, given his own recent injury history and the types of injuries that he's having, these little nagging injuries that turn into bigger injuries, it's hard to trust him for me. And so that's why I've got him at 5.
that is actually exactly why I have him next at
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
The talent's undeniable, and like you said, the offensive prowess is definitely there. But it's hard to not think that genetically the balls have some lower body issues. And that's hard. I mean, we're not doctors. Don't everybody be like, well, Brody and Skylar said not to take LaMelo
Of
because
course not.
like, hey, a lot of people thought Steph Curry would never have a truly healthy career.
It's
And
true.
so, I mean, it was what, 7 seasons of blown out ankles,
At
just
least five or
never,
six.
just never saw a full season. And when he finally did, I mean, we have Steph Curry. And I think LaMelo, in terms of raw talent coming out, is a little more talented than a guy like that. But it's if he stays healthy, the dude's going to be electric for years to come. And if not, you're going to be very frustrated as you stare at him on your IR.
Yep.
As a guy I had Lonzo in another league at one point, and you're sitting there and the guy never comes back, and then all of a sudden you're getting these reports like he may never play basketball again.
Yeah.
Dude, I wouldn't want to hemorrhage my team on his brother who's in the same situation.
Yeah.
So it's I got LaMelo there at the 4.
Okay.
I don't really love it. It's kind of whatever, but it's just like if he comes back healthy, man, you
It's
gotta acknowledge it.
undeniable. Yeah, it's
He's a
undeniable.
team maker for sure.
So I might anger you a bit with my number 4. I've got Trae Young. I've got Trae Young down at number 4.
Better have some good reason in here. Number 4.
Here's why. All right. So Trae Young, undeniable offensive talent. You could argue that he is easily a top 5 offensive player in the league. And you could argue he's the best offensive player at his position at point guard, which is hard to say. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily what I feel, but the argument is there that he is the best, second best at worst offensive at his position. But notice how everything was centered on one side of the ball there. He is, as much as I love Trae, and I do, I'm a huge fan, he is a liability.
Did we not make the argument about LaMelo, though, and the offensive prowess being so much that that's all you need for fantasy?
Well,
and
it's not.
Hey, everybody. Sorry for that little interruption. Me and Skylar did not know there was a paid version of Zoom. So we got the 40-minute mark and got cut off. And where we left off is actually where we're going to pick right back up because this has to be discussed and the rest of the list is on pause. Why, again, do you only have Trae at 4? And I need, run this reasoning through me. God, you said it once and it just really didn't sit. So let me try to listen again. Not being a homer, and I'll see if I can agree somewhat. I mean, it's blowing me, but continue.
All right, so here's the thing with Trae. Points, right? Top notch. He's up there with the best point guards in the game every year. He's a candidate to lead all point guards in scoring every year. Assists, same deal, right? He's going to be towards the top of the league every year. Candidate to lead the league in assists overall, not just for point guards. Every year.
This is a guy we're talking about. That was the first guy in how many years to lead the league in points and assists in the same season? We're not just talking about some chump here, everybody. This is a star, a certified superstar, a New York killer. Continue.
Absolutely. Here's the thing with Trae, though. Rebounding, he offers you almost nothing, right? Almost nothing, no matter what. Defense.
I got nothing.
Defense, he offers you almost nothing.
The team defense aspect, individual defense, I think I could score on Trae Young. Let's just keep it real. And for all of you at home that have never seen me play basketball, it is definitely nothing exciting, to say the least. But I would have to say last year I kind of noticed some of the influence with, I feel like if DeJounte was this main factor of just the media pressure and actually choosing to work on themselves. But you saw a couple more strip steals from Trae, those little help, the pocket steals. You saw a couple more of those roll to a double teams, and those actually did create a couple more rebound opportunities. Trae's never going to be a rebounding guard, everybody. Let's just put that out there. The kid's tiny. For an NBA player, the kid's tiny. And what makes him so good, he's so shifty, he's hard to defend, but he's going to be out of position. When we're talking fantasy here, Skylar, we're talking fantasy. You said it about LaMelo. The defense doesn't matter. Why does it matter for Trae?
He rebounds. LaMelo rebounds.
All right. Actually, when you say it like that, it would be pretty unreasonable for me to get too heated. It
The
would be
three
too.
the three
But I
guys I
will.
have above Trey, three guys real quick before you go. The three guys I have above Trey are all triple double threats any given night, and
That is the
that's
one weakness.
huge for
Everybody,
fantasy.
if you can't tell, I'm a Trey Young owner. As much as I am a fan, this guy is my number one pick. Like he will be in every freaking league. Don't expect more than a double double, the greatest double double you've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
But I think the most rebounds he had in a game last year was 6. And I'll actually let's just go. We'll Google a Trey Young career high rebounds,
Let's do it.
and I would guarantee you, Skylar. What do you think that we're looking at here?
Oh, has he ever pulled double digit rebounds? Is the question. I'll say 9.
Wow. So I'm kind of shook right now. There was a Hawks Rockets game, January 2020. So this is COVID. So anything and everything was going on, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
Trey Young had 13 rebounds in a game against the
Oh,
Houston Rockets.
wow.
I would love to maybe have like an article explaining how this happened.
Yeah.
Skylar, let's actually have a discussion right now.
Let's hear it.
In this stretch in 2020, I'm looking at stat means right now. Following the game with 13 rebounds, Trey Young had 3 straight 10 rebound games, 4 straight 9 rebound games following the 10 rebounds, and then a streak of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 straight 8 rebound games. And every single time I'm looking at it, it drops. It's just been dropping and dropping and dropping. And I'm trying to sit here as a Hawks fan and be like, when was Trey Young ever grabbing 10 boards?
I don't remember that.
And
That's
it genuinely was when the guy was getting about 40 points a game in the regular season, or 40 minutes, apologies.
right.
This was definitely more of our, we were not contending yet. Well, 2019, no, absolutely not. And actually, I would like to rephrase everything I said. For the folks at home, I'm not a statistician. Don't ever think that I am.
No.
I read that just so wrong. It was listing as high as career rebound games, and if I would have scrolled down a quarter of an inch, I would have seen the dates on those. This
Okay.
man was never going off for 10 rebounds in multiple games in a row.
I was
Uh,
like, man. So
but
those are his totals, his career totals for those numbers.
yeah, he's had multiple. I mean, he's had 4 games in double digit rebounds.
Still more than I would have given him credit for.
So I think, I mean, this discussion kind of turned into a how can Trey Young improve, but he needs to start boarding more. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the kick and grab him.
Yeah.
And I wonder too if those came from not playing a lot of defense and just kind of floating around and being able to catch loose balls. Oh, hey, Jenna, you trying to get in front of the camera right now? So Jenna is
First
actually
guest.
joining our first guest, everybody. She is a Trae Young fanatic as well. And she jumped up here to say, hop off our boy.
That's
And
it.
we'll just continue right on to the next top 3 on our number. Or Jenna's incredibly distracting right now. I'm just going to let everybody know that. We're going to jump into our top 3 Dynasty point guards to build around. And I will get started with my number 3. And my number 3 was actually Trey. Mega fan, obviously. I think the kid is going to be special. I hope he's a Hawk for his whole career. I think he can do it all, except I don't think he'll ever be an individual defender, just due to his size. But he will continue, I think, to learn how to give those steals in the pockets. Just maybe get you a couple points here and there. But he, in my opinion, he's good for 30 points and 10 assists.
Yeah.
And if he
Any
doesn't get
given
that, you're
night.
disappointed. And if you're disappointed when your guy goes less than 30 or 10, that means you have a star on your fantasy team. And he doesn't miss time. I never have to worry about rolling in a point guard. It's a great in terms of, even if I wasn't a homer, like you guys, if you're starting a keeper league and you don't have one of those first 3, 4 picks, Trey is not a bad mid first round pick. I promise you.
Can't go wrong.
I've been very disappointed in many fantasy decisions that I've made. That was not one of them. So,
Amen to
Skylar, who
that.
do you have in this slot?
Number 3, I've got a guy you've already listed. I've got Tyrese Halliburton at number 3. I am a huge believer in Tyrese Halliburton.
He's gonna save him. He's gonna save that team, dude. I think
Yeah.
he
Oh
is
yeah.
going to save that team.
And he just got paid worth that role because he deserves it.
Absolutely.
I think Tyrese is a great two-way player. He's a really good defender as well as being a great offensive player. Like you said earlier, one of the greatest passers that we've seen in recent history in the
Absolutely.
NBA. And he's only 23 years old, and he was a top 15 player in our league last year. You can't really argue with that. And like I said, he plays both sides of the ball, and him having that height and defensive advantage and also being a threat, maybe not for 30 and 10 any given night, but he's a threat for 25 and 12 any given night,
Absolutely.
which
And
is
he's
right
going to
there
get a
with that
couple
same production.
boards. I mean, when you're looking
Yeah,
at 25 and 12 and he's got 5 to 6 rebounds and maybe a steal, I mean, that is a fantasy night that will help you win a lot of games.
that's it.
Jenna, don't you dare press anything that's going to stop this video. And continuing on, sorry y'all for my cat. We're gonna get to number two. Number two is actually a pick that I'm sure I mean, I think for everybody at home, you're about to get these next two are gonna be the same here. Number two, I have this is a sensational basketball player, and he's playing out of Oklahoma City along with a lot of other young talent, and we're talking SGA.
Yep.
This kid's a freak. I, he can score by manipulating refs and getting those calls that superstars get because he's so adapted at it. He can score from beyond the three, and he chooses pretty much not to, in my opinion. It's like the guy is just has more fun scoring inside. He can score from inside the mid range. He is a leader of his team at this age. Like SGA is going to be around forever. I think. I think this is a guy, barring serious injuries, like we're looking hopefully at a Hall of Fame career, just because he is so exciting. And there's genuinely like not too many NBA players are as easy to cheer for as SGA. The guy comes across so good in interviews. Like if I was a true GM, I would be dying to have this guy as the face of my franchise for years to come. And in fantasy, let it be known, the number of trades that get sent for SGA are absurd. He's a guy that everybody wants, and if you have him, don't get rid of him. And if you don't have him, get him. Like I don't care. Like other than pretty much trading every first round draft pick you ever have, go get this guy. He's gonna be a staple of fantasy and real basketball for years to come.
Yeah, yeah. I second every notion that you made. I've got SGA at number two as well. He was top 12 in our league last year. Like you said, everything but shooting, he does consistently well. The only reason he doesn't shoot consistently well is because he just doesn't shoot consistently. So we don't really know
We
what
don't know
he's
what a
like.
shooter SGA looks like,
Yeah, we
and
don't know
that's
what
scary.
he looks like as a high volume shooter. We do as a scorer, but not shooter. And then a thing that helps SGA specifically for fantasy, I do actually think he's a little bit overrated as an individual defender, one-on-one defender, but he is probably the best help defending point guard in all of basketball.
It's
And
a
those
menace.
backside blocks, jumping into passing lanes with his super long arms, getting those steals, that is fantasy points on fantasy points, especially for a guy his size who's usually guarding someone smaller than him. It's
Beast.
easy money for him. So SGA, super great. Love having him in both of our top twos.
Absolutely. And then if anybody in the world tells you that this isn't the number one guy to build around, he's a walking. You don't want to call him a walking triple double. He gets a lot of them, but it's not something that's like he's associated with. But he could do it any night with any stats. It feels like. But Luka is just he's generational. He is a
Yeah,
generational talent. When he chooses to participate on the defensive side of the ball, he is an incredible defender. He can
yeah,
do anything you want offensively. He can shoot from behind the arc. He can post up. He has middies. He has everything, dude. I mean, there's nowhere he can't score from. And half the reason I think he's not putting up generational defensive stats is just because the Mavs are out of it half the time, and he doesn't care.
yeah.
There's a genuine difference in Luka on both halves of the floor, but the guy that you're going to get is going to put up stats. Was there a game last year or week in fantasy where you would have been disappointed to have Luka?
No,
No.
never,
Was there
never.
a week in fantasy last year where having Luka guaranteed you won your matchup? Pretty much, yeah, multiple
Yep,
times. I
yep.
mean, the guy was walking. And for scoring differences in leagues, you're going to have your different setups and stuff. But this guy is a difference maker. And when is it going to stop? I mean, he's as young as anybody we've listed, if not younger. He has more basketball experience than all of these guys because of his time over in Europe. He's going to be a menace for years to come. And the only reason I think he might be scared about drafting him is if he gets tired of basketball. He's that kind of guy, in my opinion, where he's so good, he could just say, almost like a joker as well, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, I've won, I've made money. Like, that's the only negative thing you could say could even possibly happen about Luka. There's no bad PR. He never does anything stupid. Like, he's going to play, he stays healthy. Like, Luka, number one, was the easiest decision I ever made. A couple of
Yeah.
these guys on this list, and like there was some loose like the rankings, like a couple guys could have been swapped here and there, but there's like SGA couldn't be over Luka.
Yeah.
There's just no chance. It could not happen. It's kind of like when Tiger used to go to these majors and he'd win the Masters by 12 strokes. He was playing his own tournament, and
Yeah.
everybody else was playing for second. And that's kind of
Competing.
how it is with point guards right now. Luka's playing his own sport, and all the other point guards are going for second place. And that's all
Yeah.
there is to it. All there is
Yeah.
to it.
I completely agree. Luka Doncic is, as I have in my notes right here, the perfect fantasy point guard. And he just is that. He's, like you said, a walking triple double threat. He can really play defense when he steps up and wants to. And he even proved playing with Kyrie after the trade deadline last year. He was number one going into that trade. He finished the year at number one in our fantasy league. He had hardly any, if any, real fantasy drop off.
And guys, that is unheard of for a superstar to have another quote unquote superstar join the team and for his production to not drop off. And if anything, increased
Yeah.
after the addition of Kyrie. I mean, that is unreal.
Yeah, I agree. So that was our top 10 fantasy point guards. Remember, that is for dynasty purposes. So these are players you want to build around. We didn't include guys like Steph Curry, Damian Lillard,
Yes,
because
we know Steph is better than Tyrese Halliburton. Everybody, don't come at us.
exactly.
But Steph's not going to be playing for as long as Tyrese Halliburton. So let's just
That's the
stuff like
point.
that to consider. We know like these aren't the top 10 most talented guys, but they're all in the top 20 in talent minimum, and they're also all going to play for a very long time, minus a couple of those injury exceptions that we did discuss. But
Totally agree.
now that we're done with that, and everybody almost, I think the call breakup really saved a heated Trae Young debate. I think it allowed us to see eye to eye because it was
We were
going to get
getting
ugly
there.
there for a
We were
second.
getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the call breaking up really saved that, and we'll just kind of wrap up the first show, everybody. This is a segment we'll do weekly. We're just going to go around the table, and this is kind of, we're just going to chat about what happened in the past week. And for me personally, life is pretty boring. I work, I golf, I go to the gym. So I watched a lot of Braves baseball. And last week, the All-Star break, and it's just so slow in sports, dude. Like, if you don't care about the WNBA, you've got nothing to watch. And I personally don't watch the WNBA unless I'm maybe like betting on it. Just not gonna lie, just gonna be honest, everybody out there. So the All Star break in baseball, it was awful, dude. I went to bed at like 9 o'clock every night, and I was juiced. Braves come back, and we 8-0 the White Sox, and then not pursued, because this is how mad it makes me. I'm forgetting words. We lose in front of the biggest or third biggest crowd in Truist Park history in embarrassing fashion. Sean Murphy, a first half MVP candidate, saws off a bat on a ground and double play to end the game. Where all we had to do was put the ball into play. And then we proceed to lose again today, throwing some. It may as well have been you on the mound, Skyler. It may as well have been you. And I just hope the Braves might have a little post All-Star break hangover. I'm worried we were too hot coming out in the first half, dude. I'm really worried about that. I saw these stats, generational teams, but generational teams don't ever win the World Series.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's kind of been in the back of my mind all season. Like, is this really kind of too good to be true? Because
Too good to be true.
I
Guys,
think
we're Atlanta fans. Skyler may have the Tom Brady hat on, but we are Atlanta and Georgia sports fans. The
yep,
too good to be true
tried and true.
feeling is one and I almost think the team this year has that feeling about them. It almost feels like one of those legendary Dodger seasons where they would just beat everybody in the regular season and then lose to like the Brewers in the NLDS. So
Yeah.
I hope it's not the case. I hope we can continue the pace, but it's just something I definitely felt that energy. We came out in that first game, we're still kind of hot, and then to lose a series to the White Sox at home at Truist, where I don't think we've lost a series all season or since very, very early this
Very
season.
early.
I would,
Yeah.
if we had a little statistician, we could get that looked up, but it
Coming
kind of
soon.
didn't settle with me.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Let's
And
have a
then
stat guy. We'll get a stat guy.
we'll get a stat guy. And then another thing I think we need to discuss, and we touched on the WNBA earlier, and that was not a slide on them.
No.
I would like to bring up Sabrina's 3-point.
Sabrina.
That 3-point contest. I don't know if y'all watched it, and if not, you need to go watch some clips of it. That was the best shooting I've ever seen, other than a Steph Curry in the gym video. This
Yeah.
girl missed one shot out of
Yeah.
what is it, 36 or 37 attempts,
Somewhere in
and
there.
broke the NBA record too. By the way, for people that here broke a record, like she broke the NBA 3-point contest
All
record.
of basketball. Yeah.
Like there has never been a shooting performance done like that, and that was very cool to watch because I kind of tuned in at the last win. There's nothing else on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll watch this, and all of a sudden I'm seeing lights out, like fireworks out there. So that was pretty cool to see. And if y'all haven't seen that, definitely go look it up.
Yeah. 100%. Go check it out.
What's been going on for you in the past week, brother? What worries you in the sports world? What are you excited for? What's coming up in life? If you want to just go and get off of sports.
I've got some transitions going on right now. I've been away from teaching for a while, and so I'm just about to get hired to a new job as a teacher. So I'm excited for that. Be doing some social studies, coaching football, all that good stuff. So I'm really excited for that. And then as far as the sports world goes, I have been really interested in this whole James Harden, Damian Lillard, Miami Heat, Los Angeles Clippers, all of these rumors that I've been seeing in this situation.
Dude, I don't know, and I think maybe guys like us might be part of the problem. We drink it up, but the NBA has become so dramatic.
Yeah.
And I know everything's a ploy for sales and views, but these are genuinely grown men, and it's a reality TV show at this point. Like, it's not even about the game. It's about the off season and where somebody's gonna go. And
Yeah.
I feel like for as long as I've been following basketball, every off season I hear Dame's leaving Portland, Portland's keeping Dame, Portland's sending Dame away, Portland's gonna just take Dame out behind the bark and shoot him. Like, it's always some kind of smokescreen. And at the beginning of the season, Damian Lillard is out there in a Blazers jersey doing exactly what he does every year, and they'll miss the playoffs again, or they'll make the play in and they'll lose in the first round, disappointingly, as always, and they won't change anything. And I'm just tired of hearing about it. Just change something, and if we're not going to change something, don't make me worry about it. It's the same thing with James Harden. James Harden signs the extension and then says, I want out.
Yeah.
Make up your mind.
Yeah.
Make up your mind.
Yeah. I would I'd love to see him on the Clippers though. Just for those of you who may care, I do not like the Lakers. This is a Russell Westbrook Lakers jersey. So I'm in the screw the Lakers camp now, but still got to rep my boy Russ.
And actually, I just thought of what I would like to. I think this needs to be our last topic of discussion here. Have you been keeping up with what is going on in the world of Zion Williamson lately?
Oh man, he is in a heap of trouble. Quite a pickle.
I feel bad for the kid. I feel bad for this kid. It's very obvious now he has an incredibly unhealthy relationship with food.
Yeah,
and he's come out and he said it like it's a struggle for him, and the kid, that's going to be what kills him. Not literally per se, but his career is definitely hinging on his weight. And then on top of this really coming out recently that he does truly have a problem with food, it's not just a meme, like it's not just made up. Mariah Mills, who for those of you who don't know, we'll call her an adult entertainment.
Entertainer. Yeah.
Not a star by any means, more of a bench role player at most. She has come out and said some of the most ludicrous, absurd, disgusting.
Yep.
I don't know. There's probably some truth to the statements, but it's like the more that comes out, the more she has got to be just pushing for a check, losing her mind. It's an absurd saga, dude. And it really, the point I bring this up is thank God we are not these 20, 25-year-old athletes in this spotlight.
All
It's
eyes
easy
on
for
you.
us to sit here and talk about them and make a little light about it. But these guys are out there and it's 10 o'clock on a Sunday night and they're getting bombarded with this shit on the daily.
All the time.
And it's something to consider too when you're taking in the sports news, everybody in the sports media. Like, take a little consideration. Like, it's not always about the sports. It's not always about the guy. Like, there's a lot of slants and narrative out there, and I truly think Zion is getting a bad rap right now.
Yeah.
I think
And we don't know anything definitively, just to, make sure that we're not picking
I know
sides
nothing.
here.
I know nothing. Let's
No,
just put that out there.
we don't, but we are free to believe what we want to believe in. And, I think the kid made a mistake. And she saw that as an opportunity, and obviously, like I said, again, this is not accusing anyone of anything. This is all
This is all
speculation.
purely speculation on our end.
I think she used it as an opportunity, for lack of a better term, for more clout for herself and a way to possibly get some bread out of it. And I think that's sad to see, because it's a story that we see way too often, especially with professional athletes or people in power. And I just think that it's really sad to see. I think, or I hope that Zion cleans all of this up. The habits on and off, the food stuff. Yeah,
I
he
don't
needs to
know
go a
what
different
New
direction.
Orleans thoughts are about him, but for his best case, I believe it's a new city, new team, new faces. I don't know, and it's always tough to say. You never want to assume about these guys because I mean they've been around, like they can make decisions. But it's like with Ja. You just know he's not surrounding himself with the right people because the
No.
right people wouldn't let you make those decisions or do these things with those people. And it's like you kind of think the same for Zion. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see this guy be a generational talent because one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed in sports was when I was in New Orleans at the Pelicans game and watched this man drop his career high and posterize Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
It is some of the most explosive athleticism you will see live, and I feel like we're probably going to get robbed of his Zion career. Whether or not it's through injuries or self-doing or just media pressure, and it might break mentally. I feel like we're getting robbed of Zion, and I don't want to keep going on it, but it came up, and it's definitely something I've been seeing so much through. I mean, a lot of talk on this, especially Reddit. Like I see post and post about it, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
And dude, this has been fun.
It's been awesome, man.
I don't know if everybody's had as much fun listening to this as me and Skylar have doing it, but this thing, it felt like we were sitting around the lunch table again, man.
Yeah, it sure did.
Took me right back to the days. And yeah, I'm sure everybody out there, say what you want. We're probably a little, rusty. There's some stuttering here and there. That was all 2 takes. Let that be known. That was 2 takes.
No
couple
practice.
Minimal notes, no practice. You're gonna watch us learn. You're gonna watch us get better, and I want y'all to grow with us. Come sit down at the table with us, shoot the shit with us, and let's have a good time. Like, let's chat.
Yeah, brother. Also, for anyone who is listening, I want to throw out there, today's episode was almost 100% basketball focused. We are not going to be only a fantasy basketball podcast. We will talk fantasy football. We'll talk real life sports like we did there at the end a little bit. We'll talk all sorts of stuff involving the sports world. We're thinking about adding like a golf betting segment. Brody is a big golf guy. He's, and we're thinking about adding a segment where he can kind of suggest to anyone listening who he might think about betting on or who he might think about picking to win. specific tournaments. And so, just stay tuned with us. Like Brody said, help us grow and learn. And, if you have comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Leave us a like.
We love
We
ideas.
would love it. Yeah.
We're not the kind of guys who think we know it all. If you have an idea and we like it, we will give you credit. We will take the idea and we'll run with it. And guys, we appreciate your time too. Like you took time out of your day. Hopefully, if you're driving, you're at work, like we made you and help you make some fantasy decisions, make you think about some sports, chuckle here and there.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see where it goes, man. Episode 1, in my opinion, was a success.
I agree, 100%.
We're gonna go ahead and sign off, everybody. We hope you have a great rest of your work day, your day at school, evenings, great weeks. We're so glad you decided to join in with our first episode. This has been the Lunch Table Pod. I'm Brody, and this is my co-host Skylar. And we will see y'all next week.
Thanks for sitting at the lunch table, guys.
Thanks for joining.
See you soon.